Peter Chowka is an author, journalist, media analyst, and commentator on a wide range of issues, including national politics, healthcare, media, and popular culture. He's got over 4 decades of experience reporting for a variety of publications, including American Thinker and the Epoch Times, and many others. Real Clear Politics, Patrick Buchanan's website, michaelsavage.com, a whole bunches of bunches. So let's talk to him now. Hey, Peter, how are you? Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
Very well, John. Thank you for the invitation. And this is such an incredible anniversary today, the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And it's especially poignant because of what we're facing here now in the United States 3 decades later. We thought we'd defeated once and for all Soviet Marxism and communism. But now when we look around, as you discussed in the first half hour of the show, we're looking at the imposition of socialism, Marxism, and communism right in our own country. It's just unbelievable. And I would imagine that people who are younger than 40 or 45 years old now probably have little or no memory of what the Berlin Wall and Soviet communism represented back in the day.
Yeah, it's amazing. 20 years goes by pretty quick. I just realized this year, it was 40 years ago, 40, that I entered the Dallas market on a rock and roll station. I thought, it can't be 40 years ago. So you're exactly right. Some of the people that were born right around the time the wall came down, they don't know anything about it. They really don't. You know, with all the stuff that you've written, all of the areas of interest that you hold, you've probably become a bit of a psychologist, I'm thinking, certainly a sociologist. Why is everyone rushing to, wait a minute, we don't really want freedom. Build the wall back up again. We like being contained behind a wall and shot in the back like that man and his girlfriend or his wife were. And there was the picture of them lying dead there. They'd holding hands, dead on the ground as they just try to make a run for it. Why would anybody run back toward that, Peter?
Well, John, in the first half hour, you mentioned the corruption of academia, colleges and universities, which today are ground zero of Marxism, socialism, and communism. And I think it's safe to say that that's where all of this brainwashing and change started. The deviancy and the statism, collectivism, and Marxism that started in academia 50, 60 or more years ago took root there, took seed there, and now it has spread like a cancer, an exploding cancer, into the entire culture, which is where we are now. You know, we've heard how the Internet of everything with 5G is now coming online and taking hold. Well, now we've got like the communism, collectivism, Marxism of everything taking hold. And you can make a good case that it started on the campuses. And from there, the experts trained in this Soviet-type worldview have gone out into every facet of modern life, whether it's media, law, politics, the professions, the entertainment industry. That's where it started, and it's hard, as we sit here, I think, to put that genie back in the bottle, unfortunately.
Yeah, I suppose it's just time for us to have a dose of it, unfortunately. I suppose these things are just... something compels this. I'm not really sure what it is. Let's go down this road here. I'm thinking the impeachment initiative is not going to accomplish its goal. How are you seeing things from this point?
Well, I think first of all, this week ahead is going to be really, really interesting because, first, I would say, and I think you may agree with me, that we're in the process of an attempted coup of a President Donald Trump, a different form of coup, but one like the one that took out John F. Kennedy. And on Friday, November 22nd this year, it'll be 56 years since that happened. And we still don't know exactly who did it or who planned it. But one can also argue that President Nixon was taken out by a coup. But the week ahead, we're finally going to see open impeachment hearings by the House Judiciary Committee under Representative Adam Schiff. These are going to go live Wednesday about 10 a.m. Eastern Time on all broadcast and cable TV news networks. ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and C-SPAN will televise these show trial hearings of the House Intelligence Committee, also known as the Impeachment Committee. And I'm concerned because I was there for Watergate. I was a college student in Washington, D.C. in the late 60s, early 70s. I had a Metropolitan D.C. police press pass because I was getting my start in journalism, working for a non-commercial radio station. And I attended and covered and reported on a number of the Watergate hearings and then the House Judiciary hearings the next year, 1974, which were getting ready to vote articles of impeachment against President Nixon. Now, the first hearings, Watergate, started in May of 73. That was 11 months after the Watergate break-in. And even at that point, President Nixon's popularity and approval ratings were very, very high, but it took that drip, drip, drip over the next months and year of the hearings, the revelations, to take him down. And one thing that's even more problematic today as we look forward to what's going to happen, by the way, it's pretty certain that the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives will vote articles of impeachment against President Trump. That's pretty much a fait accompli at this point. So what's going to happen is what will happen when the Senate, the United States Senate, gets the impeachment order and has presumably a trial of President Trump. How will that go? Well, I have hopes that it will go the way we hope it will go, and he will not be convicted. But I'm concerned that these hearings, it seems to me like the Democrats think they have their ducks in a row now after 3 years of planning. This just didn't start yesterday. This has been going on for 3 or more years, all these plans to take down President. And this is just a continuation of the whole collusion scam. But they think they've really got it this time, and we will start to see if that holds water starting this Wednesday.
All right, we're going to take our little break, and when we come back, of course, Peter, we'll talk about whatever you want to. But I'm wondering what's on the top of my mind right here. You can go around it if you want to. I wouldn't blame you. But I'm just wondering if they were successful in impeaching the president and then moved for removal, how would the American public react to that? Peter Chowka. I'll tell you what, let's go around that thing about the society melting down just for a minute. And while we've got this little bit of time, how about this Project Veritas and the undercover CNN videos? And then we got another one with ABC News, that little gal, Kobach, saying, we had everything for 3 years, and they suppressed it. Shepard Smith out, Megyn Kelly trying to get back in. What do you make of this?
Well, Project Veritas hit a home run this past week by putting out that tape that never was meant to see the light of day, the video of Ms. Robach talking about the ABC News cover-up of the Epstein case going back years. That was the smoking gun, as far as I'm concerned, to take down ABC once and for all, and where that investigation should now go. And, of course, instead of trying to either apologize for what they did or to report on it, instead ABC went after or is trying to go after the person who leaked that tape to Project Veritas. And this has ensnared a woman who claims she is innocent, working now at CBS News, who was fired by CBS as a favor to ABC. So it's just the further debasement of the mainstream media. It's just incredible. Now, meanwhile, the media, of course, is trying to protect the Trump-Ukraine phone call whistleblower. That you can't release his name, even though it's been published in Real Clear Investigations and other credible places. And meanwhile, they're trying to destroy, ABC is trying to destroy this whistleblower that released that tape. And yes, isn't it interesting that Megyn Kelly emerged just yesterday with an interview on YouTube. She's going to be reporting on YouTube now at her channel with Ashley Bianco, who is the CBS producer. And you have to hand it to Megyn. I'm no fan of hers. I've written critically about her. But at least she came out with this interview, which added to our information on this. Meanwhile, we have Facebook, which is now censoring the name of the whistleblower that was revealed by Real Clear Investigations, and and so it goes. I mean, Another, I wrote about this 2 weeks ago, John, the death of Vladimir Bukovsky, who I know you interviewed, and he died at age 76. He was the most famous surviving Soviet dissident, a man of incredible integrity and courage, who finally made it to the West in 1976 when he escaped the Soviet Union and has lived here since then. And his death got too little mention. At one time, the Soviet dissidents like Sakharov and Solzhenitsyn were household names, and now Vladimir Bukovsky died. He got some reporting in the mainstream print media. I didn't see anything on electronic media, and it was really, really too bad. So I wrote about that for American Thinker. And if I could just quickly mention, people listening would like to access my print work, I have a very easy website to remember. It's peter.media. Peter.media. If you go there, it's a one-page site. It has links to 200 of my articles at American Thinker, all of them accessible free. It has a link to my Twitter and also my articles at the Epoch Times, so I would invite people to go there. But you asked about what will happen, what will be the response if President Trump, God forbid, is removed from office after a trial in the United States Senate. And God only knows. I mean, I report, I don't usually prognosticate or predict, or at least I try not to, but a year or so ago I was writing several articles with the title Civil War 2.0 in the title, because it seemed to me that things were building up then as a kind of cold civil war. Now it pains me to say I see it already going hot. I mean, just consider this. We have insurrection already on the streets of major American cities. About a week ago, over 1,000 people comprising a mob, and not a peaceful mob, marched against the police in New York City, and they were violent. And this is because, as we speak, thousands of people every day are jumping on subway trains and buses in New York without paying, and they are not being arrested because we no longer have law enforcement from the streets to the suites. In California, Philadelphia, New York, as I've mentioned, the establishments, the Democrat political establishments in those areas are redefining serious crimes that once were felonies, theft, assault, etc. They're being redefined down to misdemeanors, so they won't even be prosecuted in most cases now. I mean, we are, and crime, as a result, crime rates are going up. So I fear what will happen if President Trump is removed from office. I think the country is ready. It's on a very short fuse now. And I even have a hard time imagining, John, how we're going to get through the next 51 weeks to election 2020. I can't even imagine the debates. If there are debates between President Trump and whoever the Democrat nominee is, the mainstream media has dug itself in such a deep hole of saying that President Trump is a racist, a white supremacist, a Nazi, he doesn't deserve to be in office. How can they possibly present and moderate debates in any kind of fair way? I just have as hard a time imagining what could happen in the next 51 weeks as I did imagining what Hillary Rodham Clinton would be like as president. I could just never grasp that, and thank God we didn't have to go there. And I pray to God that we're not going to have to witness the actual removal, conviction of Donald Trump, and I really hope we have a peaceful year ahead leading up to the election, but honestly, I have my doubts.
If the left were to win, I predict that Antifa would go crazy, and I think that the celebration would be in the form of violence of one kind or another, if nothing more than setting cars on fire and smashing windows, because they will have won, and all of that stuff. And I'm just wondering, and you might not want to go here, and if you don't, we don't have to. But right there at johnbwellsnews.com, there's a picture of George Soros' house, an aerial view up there in New York. And I'm just wondering, why isn't this person under arrest for sedition? Since he has stated, destroying America will be the culmination of my life's work. I don't think he was kidding when he said that. Why is he still walking around?
Not only George Soros, but all of the other let's call them what they are, criminals, many of them from the Obama regime, who hatched this conspiracy, this collusion to take down our duly elected 45th president even before he was inaugurated almost 3 years ago. They're all still walking around, too. I don't need to mention the names. Books have been written about them. They should be in the dock right now being tried for their crimes. And I think this just suggests the lonely isolation that President Trump is facing as he tries to be the 45th president. He has very little support where it really counts to hold people accountable for their crimes and to push his agenda that we voted for, that won him the presidency in 2016. I mean, the wall is still not being built like he promised, and it's no fault of his. Look what the Republican Congress didn't do during the first 2 years when they were in the majority in the House and the Senate. Now they've lost the House, and look at the mess that represents now. I mean, no one could have predicted a year ago now how bad it would be because the Democrats were going to take the House. But it's worse than we could have imagined.
Oh, yes. Peter, would you stay with us through this top-of-the-hour break? There's just about 4 minutes on the other side of the news and all that stuff for the top of the hour. But I sure would like to talk to you for a few more minutes if you can.
Thank you, John. Sure.
All right, swell. All right, very good. Then we'll do that. You just reach that point where you don't want to do what everybody else seems to be doing. Peter's not doing it, and I'm not going to start doing it either, which is just repeating and repeating and repeating everything that most people already know. Unfortunately, somewhere in the contemporary human psyche, there lurks, I do believe, a desire to just see what happens if it got really messed up. Sort of like just send a bunch of soldiers into some place like Vietnam and, just see how it goes. See how things crinkle out. I wonder. Think about that between now and when we return. This is Art Midnight, The Fifth Element. And while you're listening to our sponsors, go by caravantomidnight.com. Check it out. All right? I am John B. Wells. We'll be back with Peter Chowka in a few minutes. All righty. Here we are heading into hour 2 of The Fifth Element, Arc Midnight, the mothership guardian of the caravan. It gets just more complicated all the time. We've got a few minutes here with Peter Barry Chowka, and I wanted to just extend our conversation beyond the top of the hour so that we could get a couple more points in because they're good. So, Peter, let me ask you something. This New York Times, CNN Democrat debate last Tuesday in Ohio, what a loser. I mean, talk about a nothing burger, as Van said once upon a time.
Well, the entire Democrat lineup running for president is a group of nothing burgers, but they're dangerous. I mean, we're going to get somebody who's not like Hillary next year. Well, hopefully, maybe she'll run. I don't know. But I just want to throw this statistic out I came across in researching tonight's show. We were talking about academia and how it's very influential, and LGBTQ plus has become the constituency that's the tail wagging the political dog. Well, according to the William Institute of UCLA School of Law, not a conservative source, 1.7% of American population, or 5 million people, identify as lesbian or gay. There are also 700,000 transgender individuals, which is 0.2%. So together, lesbian, gay, transgender, less than 2% of the U.S. population. Now, when we look back at 2016, it seems to me that prayer on the part of people of goodwill and faith helped to prevent the election of Hillary. When people looked at her, people of discernment, they saw, in my opinion, pure evil. And her regime would have been, her election would have been a double whammy, a continuation of the corrupt Obama regime and a restoration of the Clinton presidency. Unthinkable. 2020 is going to be even more complicated. I will predict that. So as a person of peace and trying to foster healing myself and my work, I would recommend that people of faith pray long and hard for what we hope will be the proper outcome in 2020. And I think, John, that your next two guests on the program will be on the issue of vaccine injury and related healthcare issues. And as you know, a large part of my beat for several decades was the politics of medicine and innovative alternative therapies. And by the way, you can kiss those goodbye if Elizabeth Warren is elected and gets her crazy Medicare for All plan into law. I pretty much covered the waterfront on all of those areas of medicine, Inc., and my work over decades confirmed the role of big pharma and the medical establishment to influence and corrupt public policy, medical research, and media coverage of things relating to medical care, including vaccine injury. There was a story in 2015 titled, "Most Medical Research Stories in the Media Originate from Press Releases." And in 2011, Scientific American, in an article, said this: when asked, reporters cited press releases from pharmaceutical companies, universities, university hospitals, and governmental institutions as sources of ideas for their stories on healthcare. So you talk about fake news and deep state or establishment influence on the media. There it is in a gold-plated example. So beware, look out, keep reading, and hone your level of discernment, because we are going to need it in the months ahead.
I hope people will think about the potential after, before they go to the polls. It's on November 3rd next year, right?
Right, 51 weeks from this coming Tuesday.
Do you know, I don't run my life by numerology, but I can't keep from noticing these coincidences. But if you add up that date, that's the number 9, you know? Mm-hmm. 1 plus 1 plus is 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 20, that's 4, that's 9. The Vedics think it's the number of God, and some other ones too. But certainly it is it's an interesting number, and I think it is I think it's interesting that that'll be Election Day 2020. This is going to make it or break it, folks. You better understand that. Depending on how this goes, either way, there won't be any coming back from it. You know, Mr. Trump, our president, our duly elected president, he's not a globalist. He sees what's coming. He's a businessman. I thought it was funny when he called Bloomberg Little Michael.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to agree with everything President Trump does. I certainly don't. But
no, neither do I.
He's obviously the last bulwark between our traditional constitutional republic and a communist nightmare. It's as simple as that.
Peter Chowka, we appreciate your coming on the program. We appreciate your work. So you stay healthy and strong out there, and we'll talk again soon, all right? Peter.
Thank you so much, John.
Everybody.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.